It's like you train all year in mindful drinking and doing the thought work and intentional living and self-care and boundary setting and not people pleasing. You train all year for all of that. And then the test is the holidays. So, I want to tell you a story today about some difficulties that I was having through the holiday period, as so many of you do. I mean, I feel like I'm on cleanup in January. You know, the holidays are a shit show. They are the most stressful time of the year when you are maximize social obligations, financial stress, all of the chaos with all of the kids and performing the role of good mother and good sister. You have to get everybody that you know a gift. It's just stressful. And so what I tell my clients is that your performance in the mindful drinking category is going to be at its lowest base level throughout the entire year. It's like you train all year in mindful drinking and doing the thought work and intentional living and self-care and boundary setting and not people pleasing. You train all year for all of that. And then the test is the holidays. Like it is go time. And your performance basically shows you where your baseline is. Like how low is it? Because so many of your old habits return because of course they do. What habits are the pre-programmed settings so that when you are under periods of stress, when you are distracted, you've got an autopilot. Somebody's taking over, doing the thing. You don't have to make decisions. You don't have to think about it. And the biggest brain blower with changing how you drink and becoming a mindful, intuitive drinker as a habit instead of an exception that takes a lot of effort. The biggest brain blower is that it is your thinking habits that you have to change, not your drinking habits. Everybody wants to set goals to reduce their drinking. And I give so many strategies to my clients, you know, the delay, don't deny, and talking to your tomorrow self. There are so many strategies that can help you reduce your drinking. But how much you drink is actually a side effect of how you think. And so if you want to actually make permanent changes in yourself, like I have, like my clients have, then you have to go to the root source, which is the thinking habits, the beliefs that are driving your behaviors. And the funnest part about my job is that I get to watch myself in action. Like sometimes I knowingly allow myself to back into a habit, slide down the slippery slope, if you will, a little bit, because I want to watch myself get out of it. I want to watch myself process. And over the last year, I noticed that there was a habit that was creeping back in or developing a new one, like whatever. But I went through a divorce last year. And then I was like, it's go time in my business. I am going to work my ass off. I don't have time to fuck around. Like I have to transition between being financially dependent on someone else and being a domestic support person with a very expensive hobby with this coaching thing. I had to transfer from losing money in my business to turning that completely around and becoming profitable in my business to the point where I can pay for some of my own bills and maybe help my kids out too. Like that was a big thing. And I'm so proud of myself because in 2024, I 10x'd my business. And I did that by sheer force of will. Hustle and grind. I was publishing 3 reels a day on TikTok, 7 days a week, not negotiable. Not to mention putting out my podcast every week, not to mention doing sales calls and bringing new clients into my program, not to mention delivering my program, including writing a brand new 300-page workbook and doing group calls and doing one-on-one. I mean, it was a big year and I'm so excited. But as you can imagine, when you are working that much and that much stress and pressure putting on yourself, I have great self-care practices. And yet, as the year went on, my veneer started to chip a little bit. I started to notice that, you know, not all of that, this is not going to be a sustainable habit. This is living like this, living balls to the wall, pedal to the metal. That's not going to be sustainable. How did I know that? There were a few signs. First of all, I was bothering myself in my head that I should be working out. Not only should I be, creating a successful financial business, I should also be like in peak marathon shape, possibly preparing to run like a half Ironman or something like that. Like all this pressure, it's never good enough, right? And even though I do walk every single day for 45 minutes to an hour because I have a German Shepherd and that's not negotiable. I walk every day. I do my push-ups every day. I have some weights in my room that sometimes I kind of move around. In my mind, I was not working out enough. So I wasn't, fully living the habits that I want to live as a successful person. I was in, when I get there, then I will do the things. I don't have time. I can't afford to take a break, which of course is not sustainable. But that's not what this podcast is about. So I noticed that, physically I wasn't getting as much exercise as I want. Then I noticed, and here's the point of the podcast, I noticed that I was drinking more than I wanted to be drinking on the weekends. Now, the definition of alcohol use disorder is that when you are drinking more than you think you should drink, it has nothing to do with how much or how often you drink. If you plot what I was drinking on a spreadsheet, it was still within the CDC limits most weeks. I mean, Christmas, holidays, there are times when I exceed 7 drinks a week. But it was not that I was drinking more. What had happened was after my ex-husband moved out, I was just so thrilled on a Friday night to have some couch time. I'm going to watch a movie. I'm going to get my salmon, my meal from my favorite restaurant that is the salmon dish. And I'm going to open a bottle of wine because I deserve this. And I'm going to watch a movie. And I loved it. And I felt so good about it. So there was no problem. Felt really good about it. And in general, just so you know, if you're tracking my drinking habits, I was drinking about a bottle of wine a week. I would have 2 glasses on Friday night and 2 glasses on Saturday night. Now, of course, if I went out or something came up, that could change, but left to my own little orbit of my working habits and my relaxing habits, that's about where I was at. I was really comfortable with that, really happy with that. But as time went on, as the year went on, I noticed that that was bothering me, not so much because I was drinking, but because I was starting to ask myself, you just staying home so you can drink? Is that like, maybe you should get out of the house, like Holly the hermit? Like, why aren't you continuing to expand your life? Like, is your life contracting? Are you like going to just be this person who's all by yourself? So I was bothering myself about the fact that I wanted to just do nothing on a Friday night, which when I just explained what my year was, I think we can all agree, like there's nothing wrong with that. So I was bothering myself. And then it's just the cascade of bullshit in your brain. Then I started to notice, like when I went to have a glass of wine on Saturday night, there was less than half in the bottle. I had exceeded my perfectly designed portions for 2 glasses on Friday and 2 glasses on Saturday. And I started to think about that. This is the insanity of alcohol use disorder. It is the thinking habits that are the slippery slope. It is the shame. It is the worry. It is the anxiety. It is the second guessing. It is the overthinking. It's all of that. Okay. So over the course of a few months, I would wake up on specifically Saturday mornings and be thinking, I feel like I've got a touch of alcohol use disorder again. So that was my 3D physical experience. The cool part is the coach entrepreneur of me is like, ooh, let this unwind a little bit. Like, let's see how Houdini's going to get herself out of this. Because I know that every single one of my clients who comes to me, this is their main problem. And while I'm an amazing coach who has been through all of it, I drank every single day for 15 years. And then I did 3 years of sobriety. And then I reintroduced alcohol and got to see how, wow, 3 years of sobriety does not teach you how to drink in moderation. Half a glass of wine, it all came back that first night that I had some wine. It all came back. All of the overthinking, all of the worrying, all of the thinking habits that cause you to have alcohol use disorder came back. And so that journey that I had to take personally, it wasn't just me figuring it all out. I've also read 1,000 books on, neuroscience and habit change and all of the even manifestation and law of attraction. I'm busy. I have so many wonderful books, and dopamine and nervous system regulation. Like, I could go on and on. I've read a thousand books. And so I was using science and evidence-based studies to study my own experience and watch myself get out of it. That is my unique ability in life. That is my superpower, is to be able to take in a ton of information, marinate it, cook it in my brain, experience it in my body, and then articulate what I experienced into a simple, easy to understand step-by-step process. That is what my program is a lot of tools that I have personally created through personal experience, using all of the scientific research, evidence, best practices from all of the neuro nerds out there. So that's my superpower. It started when, as a young woman, I was a stay-at-home mom, air quotes around that because nobody stayed at home ever. But I used to teach group exercise and personal training and yoga and boot camp. And I had to learn how to do a move and then be able to cue it with just a few words and stay 4 beats ahead of everybody else while demonstrating it, talking, listening to the music, thinking ahead. Like, that was where I developed, this is a physical skill that I have. And I've really honed into it. So part of me was really upset with myself for how much I was, drinking beyond the half of the bottle, because it threw off Saturday night's calculations. I felt underserved on Saturday night, and then overthinking, do I want to have a little more? Like, blah, blah, blah. That's alcohol use disorder. So part of me was experiencing it. But then part of me was witnessing what I was experiencing and watching and looking for a toehold, an edge to shift my perspective. So there I am one morning, I think this was back in October, and I wake up, and there's a few things I know. There's a few things I know about hangover management. And I put all of these tools in my program. We have hangover meditations, write yourself a love letter. But there's what it wasn't addressing, what I had yet to crack the code on, was the concerns for next Friday night. I know how to love myself when I've made a mistake. I am Team Colleen. It is okay. But your brain is not going to not notice and point out that this is like the 10th Saturday in a row we've had this conversation. Like, what are you actually going to do different? And it is action in the present moment that causes change in the future. Big mistake we all make is that we are feeling bad, we feel ashamed, we feel guilty, and so we start making promises to ourselves. We start telling ourselves story that we are not going to be drinking next weekend, or I'm not drinking tonight, or I'm definitely going to keep it to 2, or I'm going to read this book. Like, we're making plans for our future self because our present self is engulfed in a shame fire and anxiety. And that doesn't cause change. Thinking things in your brain, no matter how fucking brilliant and relieving they are. Oh, I'm going to take the entire year off from drinking. All you're doing is telling yourself a story in the present moment to change how you feel. You can change your mind again in the future anytime. Welcome to being human. Your thoughts are the direct results of your emotions. And your emotions are like the clouds. The clouds come over the sun, they block the sun. Oh, it's gray and it's dark and it's raining on my head. And then the sun comes out and suddenly you're filled with confidence and compassion and curiosity and forward motion. Like, your emotions are controlling your thoughts if you don't have the skills that I teach with emotional sobriety. You have a feeling, you try to think your way out of that feeling. What's the story I need to tell myself, right? And what I teach is how to use your thoughts to manage your feelings so that you're in control, instead of just listening to all the thoughts, where here's what you need to know, and it's essential for this tool. 95% of what you think is the same shit you thought yesterday. Do you know what that means? It means that your thoughts are habits, that what you think is the same thing you thought before. You believe everything you think. You believe 100% of what you think and about 60% of what other people tell you. This podcast right here has a 60% hit rate in terms of That sounds right. But everything that goes through your mind sounds true. And if you printed out a transcript of everything that goes through your mind, you'd realize, oh shit, I am bipolar batshit insane. 1 minute I should buy the stock. The next minute I should sell the stock. The 1 minute I need to be in this relationship and we need to get married. And the next relationship is I hate this person and I need to get a divorce. Like, it is constantly changing what your mind is, because your thoughts are just the sound of your emotions. And you have to learn the difference. And that is what I am teaching you here. You have to learn the difference between listening to the sound of your feelings and using your mind like a tool. Any tool, double-edged sword, any tool can be used to destroy or to create. And when you are listening to the sound of your anxiety and your shame and your fear and your guilt, your brain is in destruction mode. So what I'm going to show you here is the tool I invented, discovered, because I allowed myself to get a little uncomfortable and trusted completely that I would be able to Houdini my way out of it. And I did. So I'm laying there and I know, like I said, that I need to find a way to be positive and not just skip the part where I feel the shame. The shame that's coming up is telling me a message, and the message is not accurate, but the message that it's telling me is that this keeps happening and it's bigger than I am. I actually don't have control of this. I can't change that. Something is wrong with me. I don't want to be doing this and I don't know how to change. All of the sound of those thoughts create negative feelings in your body. Okay, so I know that I have to process that shame, but I didn't know how to argue back on this particular one, because it had been a couple of months of every Saturday morning, rinse and repeat. And here's what I know. The reason you have to process your shame is because you cannot learn when you are in a state of shame and anxiety. You cannot learn when you are in a state of stress. Your mind is closed. When your mind is closed, your autoresponder is running. You're just thinking thoughts you've thought before, what you think is true. There is no what else could be true. There's no curiosity. There's no creativity getting in. Your mind is closed. And so you cannot learn when you are at a state of stress because your mind is closed. And if you cannot learn from your mistakes, then you are destined to repeat them. So here's the litmus test. If you are making the same mistake over and over and you are having the same conversation in your head, then this is a thinking problem. You are not asking the right questions. You are not drawing out the correct information that will allow you to act differently in the future. There's no learning going on. The more you repeat a mistake, the more you are learning the wrong thing. So I guess it's not fair to say you're not learning anything. You're learning the wrong thing, and you're destined to repeat that mistake. Well, after, a couple of months, I no longer wanted to repeat this mistake because it was starting to bleed into my weeks. Every time I thought about Friday night, I would go into a state of anxiety of, I better make plans because I better get out of my house, or otherwise I'm going to be sitting on the couch. And I drank 2.5 glasses of wine last week. It's going to be 3 next week. Like, it was starting to metastasize into my other thought processes, like a mind virus, where it was affecting my confidence in myself in other areas, including my work. Maybe I'm not who I say I am. Maybe, I'm full of shit, and all of my clients, they've paid me to help them. And here I am waking up for the 7th Saturday in a row, having been overserved. So I knew I wasn't learning what I needed to learn to actually cause change. Now, one of the strategies that I teach is that you have to learn how to find the win. You have to give yourself credit for the improvement. If you do not feel a felt sensation of goodwill towards yourself for the improvements you have made, there will be no more improvements. This is the problem with alcohol use disorder and the perfectionistic mindset. Is you set a goal. I'm going to drink perfectly forever and never make another mistake. I'm going to reduce my drinking by, 97% in one day, in a single leap, tall building, single bound. I'm going to make all these changes. I'm going to just willpower my way through, starting on Monday or starting on January 1st, all new moves, all new me. And we set these ridiculously unrealistic goals because there's 100% chance that your habits are 95% of your thoughts and behaviors, and that you will fall back into those habits as life has its way with you, exerting pressure, distractions, focus, big bad days, physical illness, hormones, lack of sleep, okay, there's 100% chance you will fall back into old patterns. And so what I teach with alcohol use disorder is you have to set realistic expectations, and then you have to focus on where the win is, what you are doing right instead of what you are doing wrong. There will be no more improvements in your performance changes that are authentic, right? You can perform your way for a while and use your willpower, but there will be no more real long-term sustainable change until you give credit for the improvements, the progress, the changes you've already made. And what we forget to do is look to our mind and our habits of thinking and log those as improvements. And that awareness, poof, blew my mind, because the question, the problem that I was facing that I needed to solve in that Saturday morning hangover was, I don't see any improvements. It's getting worse. I keep doing this. There's no win here. And that was false. And here's how you know if you are dealing with a false thought, something that appears to be true, but it is not true. There's a very simple litmus test. In your body, there's two states of being. One is forward, one is reverse. One is powerful, one is victim, weak, pathetic. One is heart open, mind open, curious, confident, capable, powerful. The other is heart closed, mind closed, negative, pathetic, sad, anxious, shameful, fearful, regretful, angry. Okay, there are two states of being. Your feelings are your superpower. They are telling you which gear you are in. Are you thinking in a way that is going to move you forward, or are you thinking in a way that you're spinning the wheels in the mud and sliding backwards? Your feelings are your litmus test for the quality of your mindset. And if you can get that, you make the turn. Everything else is just skills that you can learn. If you can understand that instead of being afraid of your feelings, avoiding the shame, performing your way out of shame and anxiety. Like, that's what dry January is about. Dry January is about avoiding feeling bad by using good behavior. And then thinking you've actually made some changes because you feel so good, not realizing you feel whatever you think. And then the moment you reintroduce alcohol, it's a slippery slope, because at some point you do make a mistake, or you do overthink your own behavior. Like, a mistake is subjective. Like, who's to say how much or how often you should be drinking? There will be a point where you make a decision with drinking where you wish you would have made a different decision. There's a 100% chance of that. And if you are thinking about that and processing that in a way that makes your body feel bad, causing a stress response, causing the anxiety and the worrisome thoughts, and thinking backwards and thinking forwards, like you're trying to solve a problem, the problem is in the present moment, which is the energy in your body, then you can't move forward until you realize that all time is now. You live in the present moment. And the first problem you always need to solve with anything ever in your whole entire life, if you have time to think, this is your first problem to solve. And that is, how do I feel in my body? Heart open, mind open, positive, curious, confident? Or how do I feel? Heart closed, mind closed, pathetic, upset with myself, guilty, ashamed, and afraid. Okay. So problem number one always is, which gear am I in? And then how do I get from the wrong gear into the right gear? And so as I was going back through the previous evening, when I woke up on this day and thought, where's the win? How do I find the improvement? When I walked back through my memory banks of the previous evening, I found 3 fleeting thoughts, urges to do something different. The first one had occurred when I had finished with my workday and I was busy going and doing some stuff. And the thought occurred to me, I should just skip it. I don't even need to drink tonight. I don't feel like it. I'm tired. I should just relax and skip the bottle of wine. That was a fleeting thought. Then what happens is, thoughts are habits too. When that thought came into my body, I probably was like, I had a feeling of, this is going to go against my habit. You see, it's not that drinking less or not at all is actually hard. Doing something different is hard because you have to take your brain off autopilot. So I had this beautiful invitation from my body to just take the night off, and my autoresponder bot brain kicked on, and I got this response. It's Friday night. You didn't have anything to drink last week because you were traveling. You deserve this. And so I had the fleeting urge to do something different. I had my autoresponder helpful brain keeping me on track. And I listened to that. I'm in the habit. I didn't pay attention to the new thought, the new idea that was different that appeared in my consciousness. And I went with the old. So no biggie. I opened my bottle of wine. I sat down. That's when the second thought occurred. I had one sip and the thought popped into my head. It tastes like alcohol. Like, I don't even really like that. And the auto response from my brain, my subconscious programming, kicked out the reply that said, this is an expensive bottle of wine. It just needs to open. Give it a few minutes to let it breathe. You're going to be fine. So I did that and watched my movie, had my 2 glasses of wine, exactly. But then here, you have to know the details. There is a wrench in this story. My kids are home from college. Somebody else, 2 other people were drinking out of that bottle of wine. Okay. So it's not exactly half. Okay. Which is good. This is wonderful because it led to the lesson. So the movie is over and I feel complete with what I believe was 2 glasses of wine. And I look over on the counter and I see about an inch of wine left in the bottle. And I skipped over the part where I told you I just had the thought, I feel really good. That was the perfect amount of wine. I really enjoyed that. I'm done and I'm going to go to bed. That was the thoughts that appeared in my head. Then my brain scanned the room, noticed there was 1 inch of wine on the counter, and my autoresponder bot brain said, that's not enough wine to save. This is an expensive bottle of wine. Those darn kids drank most of it, and I'm going to finish it now. So I did. And here we are telling the story because I woke up with the hangover and realized that I had to find the win. And so what I did was realize those thoughts were the wind. Those thoughts were evidence that I don't want to be sitting at home drinking by myself on a Friday night, that I do want to get out and explore. I don't want to be tied to the Friday night movie and wine habit. Like I want to be able to enjoy it, but I don't want it to be my default. I don't want it to keep me from opening my mind to seeing what else might be possible, to see what else I might want to be doing. That's not a habit that I want to foster and feed. Okay. And so there was evidence in those 3 random shooting thoughts that my brain does want to change, that my brain is trying to help me. It was just like a little baby idea gotten run over by the tsunami of the habit that had come back, which is it's Friday night. I drink on Friday nights. I deserve it. It's a reward. I'm going to enjoy this and it's fine. It's good. And I don't need to save a small amount of wine. Like all of those are just habits. They're just the sound of my feelings. They're not even me. They're just the words in my head that I have thought thousands of times. And I need to pay more attention to the words in my head that are coming up that are telling me, I don't want to do this. I need to feed the thoughts that I want to be stronger. That's the only difference. You know, there's that parable with the wolf where a young boy is being told by his grandfather, there are 2 wolves that live inside of you, the good wolf and the bad wolf, and they're fighting. And the little boy says, well, Grandpa, which wolf wins? And the grandfather says, the wolf that you feed. You have to feed the thoughts that you want to think, because the ultimate hack, the cure that you're looking for with alcohol use disorder is that your mind and body are in alignment, that you actually think, as I've explained on this podcast before, is that what happens to me, like, it doesn't even occur to me to open the bottle of wine during the week. Like that's no longer a habit. If it does, it's so random. It's like the opposite of an intrusive thought. It's like this weak little, hey, do you want to open a bottle of wine? And I'm like, no, that's not what I do. And I just move on. I don't give it any credit. But the goal with your healing is that you actually think the thoughts that cause you to act the way you want to act. And that's the big problem with white knuckling and willpowering in terms of trying to change your behavior is because you believe you would be doing something else if you didn't have to change. The true solution to alcohol use disorder is that you're actually thinking in a way that that's what you want to be doing. There's no internal battle at all. When someone offers me more wine after I've had about that 2 glass limit where I feel the biphasic effects of alcohol, there's a line between buzzed and intoxicated, and I have no desire to cross it. I don't want to feel numb and dumb. I don't want to feel disconnected. I don't want to feel loopy and not paying attention and repeating myself. Like I want to feel grounded in my body. And for me, about 2 glasses over the course of an evening is all I can tolerate. Maybe I'm old now, like I don't know, my tolerance is down, but I have no desire to feel something different. And so when I'm drinking wine and someone says, "Do you want some more?" the words that come out of my mouth match the thought in my head, which says, "No, thank you. I'm good." And so that is the goal with alcohol use disorder, is to sync up so that you actually think the thoughts you want to be thinking in order to do and behave in the way you want to behave. And so in this situation, those 3 thoughts were invitations, and I need to grow and foster those thoughts. They are proof that I do want to change. They are proof that I can change. And the only thing separating me between my desired results is me slowing the fuck down and paying attention and fostering the wolf I want to feed, instead of letting my autoresponder bot in my brain, kick out the reply and I just go with that because I haven't taken the time to check in because I am too checked out. I'm just Friday nighting and not really present. And that's why it's hard to change your behavior, because you do have to check in, but that's all you have to do. It's not actually hard to drink in a way that feels good and serves your greater interests. That's actually easy. It's just hard to focus and do these tools. So here's the way using the litmus test in your body that this is a tool that can work for you, is how it makes you feel. So when I was thinking that I had found 3 pieces of evidence that I indeed did want to do something different, and I was able to give myself full credit, because your thoughts have to change before your behavior changes. Like, set some realistic expectations here. I was able to give myself full credit that those thoughts had appeared right on cue when I needed them. Nothing has gone wrong. I just need to pay more attention. When I thought of that, the feeling that was in my body for next Friday night was, "Oh, bring it on. Put me in, coach. I cannot wait to notice that thought again and change how I will respond." And this doesn't mean I'm not ever drinking again on a Friday night. But next time, and I haven't had it yet because it's been the holidays, kids are home. It's just been Christmas for 4 weeks. Okay. But I haven't had an opportunity for the first thought to not drink at all on a Friday night, because I do enjoy drinking, and that there's no problems, especially when it's social. Anyway, I haven't had a thought to practice it occurring to me to not drink on a Friday night and saying no. But I look forward to that. And even if I choose to drink, what I plan to do next time that comes up, that thought comes up of, "I don't really even want this," it's like an automatic timeout. It's like, whatever you're doing, stop, drop, go lay on your bed, breathe deeply, check in, and truly give myself a choice. I can still choose to do whatever the fuck I want, but I'm going to listen to the thought and see if I want to feed it instead of ignore it. But I will tell you that there have been at least 5 times since I came up with this tool and applied it, that there's been this much wine left in the bottle, and I've laughed my ass off at that 1 inch of wine. Oh, no, 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 no. My body is not a trash can. I don't care how expensive that wine is. First of all, you can save an inch. You can. You just put the little wine cork in there, and I do the little suck on the wine saver. It saves very nicely. There are no problems with saving that much wine. And then if you do want like just 1 little glass, there it is. It's not a problem. So you can save the wine. But there have been a couple of times I've just poured it out. For example, like on a Sunday night where we've had a big family gathering, again, Christmas, 4 weeks of it, and there's a little bit left, and I don't want to have that conversation with myself on Monday. Like, I don't want to be tempted. Like, I'm not going to set myself up to be distracted by an inch of wine on a Monday night. So I'll just pour it down the drain because, again, like, I'm paying for it either way. I get to choose what I do with it. And I do not have to put it down into my body and process it. I can put it down the sink and process it there and wake up the next morning and be like, oh, this is awesome. So I know this tool works. I have been introducing it and having my clients apply it, and they've also been getting great results with it. So let me just boil it down to the homework that you want to do. Next time you're hungover and you feel like you're having a conversation with yourself that, yeah, you've had before, here's how to change that conversation. Number one, I want you to do a walk through memory lane, and I want you to capture all of the thoughts, the fleeting thought, the half thought thoughts, the submerged thoughts that maybe just one elbow's sticking up out of the dirt. You know, it's all happening in your subconscious and it's going very fast. I want you to go through memory lane and collect all the evidence that it does occur to you to do something different, that there's nothing wrong with your brain except you're not actually fucking paying attention to it. So I want you to make a list of that. Like, I had 3. That's a good number. I guarantee you can find 3. But worst case scenario, find one. Find one. And maybe it's not even in the drinking episode. Maybe it was earlier in the day or earlier in the week where you thought, I don't even want to go to that party because I'm just going to end up getting schnozzed and I don't want to do that. That's your win. That's your invitation to do something different, to take an action in that moment and send a text and say, will not be able to make it. Regrettably, I'm sorry. Have fun. I'll miss you. Just kidding. So I want you to make a list of the thoughts, the fleeting thoughts, the subconscious urges, also known as positive intrusive thoughts. You know, we get so caught up with negative intrusive thoughts, like maybe label this list positive intrusive thoughts that just popped their head in and asked for your attention. And then I want you to make a list of your autoresponder thoughts. It's Friday night. You didn't drink last night or last weekend. You deserve this. That's not enough wine to save. Give it a minute. It'll breathe. It doesn't matter if you don't like it. It's expensive. Drink it. Like, all of these thoughts, I want you to start making a list of them in your autoresponder brain bot list. Okay. And here's the beauty of it. In the future, you will have that again because thoughts are habits too. The good ones are habits too. And you will notice it. And instead of being a subconscious rando, you'll be like, oh, there's that thought again. Now, instead of a 1 on a scale of 10, it's a 2. And then you think about it. And maybe you give yourself some time to process and really get curious. Is that thought the one I want to feed? Now it's a 3. You also just get a point in dopamine for noticing that you had the thought again. Like, your brain is a little game player. It loves to play games. You got to send it on a scavenger hunt. You got to send it on a scavenger hunt to look for all the thoughts that you want it to be thinking so that you can pull them front and center and, you know, give them an edge, give them the advantage, put them at the head of the line for your attention. Okay. So you want to make a list of all of the random, fleeting, positive invitations to do something different that you didn't pay attention to, and then make a list of all of your autoresponder thoughts. What are you in the habit of thinking when the good idea comes up, the bad idea squashes it out? Make a list of those thoughts because you need to be seeing them as autoresponders. They are the automatic reply. Just like you know how much you hate it when you know you're talking to a bot or there's an auto reply email. You know the person isn't there. When you start to see your auto responded thoughts as not you, there's no person. It's just a knee-jerk reaction coming from your subconscious programming, and you have the power to change that programming. When you start seeing the thoughts in your brain as optional, you are using your brain like the tool it was designed for. You can think whatever the fuck you want. You can choose to use your brain with intelligence and intention and on purpose. This is not hard, my friends. You just have to learn to use your brain. So this idea that you have to fix your drinking or drink less or change your drinking or make sure you don't drink too much around certain people, all the wrong problems. Those problems don't even exist on a higher level of intelligence. The problem that you want to solve is, where are the thoughts that I want to pay more attention to, and how do I give them more of my attention? How do I give them my focus? How do I believe those thoughts more than the other thoughts? Because here's the true story. Beliefs aren't real. They're words in your brain that represent truth and experiences. They're communicated. They're like little mind viruses, but beliefs themselves are not true any more than a picture of the sunset is the actual sunset. They are not true any more than the words on the menu that describe the food are actually the experience of eating the food. The beliefs in your brain are just ideas that you've thought so many times that you've no longer questioned them and you just listen to them. And all you have to do to overcome alcohol use disorder is to realize you have the power to manage your mind and manage your emotions. And you have the litmus test where, if you don't feel open-minded, open-hearted, confident, future-oriented, capable, then you're not using your brain correctly. Your body is your divinely designed gift to tell you if the thoughts you're thinking are moving you forward or putting you into reverse. And so that's it. And I want you to try this homework. And here's the thing. I want you to reach out to me if this, okay, pause. How am I going to end this? Okay. Okay. So that's it for today's episode. I want you to try this tool, and I want you to reach out to me if you have any questions. I'm going to start. I've had my team create a form where you can submit questions, and I will cover them on the show. I'm going to ask you for your email and your cell phone and your name. None of those will be used. I can answer questions without identifying. I'm going to ask you to provide some demographic information and some context for the question, just so I can introduce questions on my podcast. But I want to start doing Q&A sessions, and I want you to talk back to me. I want you to tell me where you have questions. And occasionally, maybe I'll reach out to you and we'll do something live, like a live phone call. Like, my power, my joy in my life is my ability to coach. I love it. And I can do a lot with just a simple question. So we'll be doing that. But I will ask you for your phone number. You don't have to provide it for me. But at some point, if your question is something I'd like to do a whole episode on it, maybe we'll do a live coaching session if you're interested in that. And we can hide your identity. Don't worry about that. If I give you a call and you decide you want to do a coaching session, we will talk about protecting your identity. You don't have to do anything you don't want to do. But in the link in the show notes, there is a link for you to submit your questions. Let's try this. Let's bring this conversation three-dimensional and interact, so I'm not just thinking what I think you need and want to hear from me every single week. Fill out a form and let me know. And so I look forward to hearing with you. And here's the other, if you're still listening, you're my people, and you got a lot out of this episode. I know you did. I need you to help support me by sharing the show. Here's the thing. If you don't know anybody you want to share it with, here's what you can do. Hit the share button, copy the link. That's it. You don't have to paste it and send it in a text. But if you hit the share button, the algorithm does believe that the show was shared, and that gives me a boost. Of course, it would be nice if you actually did share the show. And I encourage you to think of someone right now who needs to hear this and send them a link to this episode so that they can watch or listen. This is my first video podcast solo, so I'm experimenting with that. And I'm going to do more of them. So share the show. And if you haven't if we're on YouTube and you're watching this, hit the bell to subscribe so that you are staying with my content. I'm going to be publishing a lot every single week. Podcast episodes, shorts from my TikTok and Instagram that I make, 3 to 4 minute little lessons. Like, I did this whole podcast in 3 minutes on TikTok today. So this is the expanded version, obviously. But subscribe to whatever platform you're watching me on, subscribe, or go find me on other platforms. I'm on Spotify. I'm on Apple Podcasts. I'm on Podcast Addict. Everywhere that you can find podcasts, you can find me. But whatever platform you're on, I do ask you to take a moment and hit the share button and copy the link, even if you're not actually sharing it. Please do that for me so that I grow. I appreciate seeing you, and I'll see you soon.